Okay, in this lesson tutorial, we're going to look at three key tasks for completing task 3, which is locating the area that you are studying. You want to get your jotter that you're completing your project in and write the title, the location of St Andrews, at the top of the page. What you're now going to want to do is find one or two maps that show both where St Andrews is in Scotland, as well as a bit more information about St Andrews itself. And these maps will allow you to answer the three bullet points that you can see on this page. So let's get started with where do we find the maps. We're going to want to use the digimap service that you will find in RM Unit Fi. You're going to want to enter these details, your username and password, into that to get yourself logged in. So let's have a look at how you do that. In digimap, when you go into RM Unify, you'll see it's a tile called Digimap for Schools. And you want to open up this tile, which will, if you haven't logged in before, automatically give you a username and password to log in. Now, I've entered them here. That's the current 2021 login details. You want to make sure you type that in and then log yourself into the Digimap service. Okay. Next step is you're going to want to find a map, extract the map, and print it off, which shows the location of St Andrews in the rest of Scotland. So this map has got to clearly show the location of St Andrews compared to the rest of Scotland. So the way to use this map is you can use this bar to zoom in, and you can just drag your mouse across to move around the country. Now St Andrews is located north of Edinburgh in this area of Scotland, and we can see it here. And I'm just going to collapse the sidebar here so we can see the whole of the map. And I'm just going to zoom into a little bit further, and that clearly shows me where St Andrews is compared to other key things. Now I can keep zooming in here. You can see as I zoom in even further, I get more information. Now this map level is quite useful because it shows me the names of the roads, but I'm zoomed in quite far, so I can't really see all of the cities. So I might want to just zoom out a level or two so I can show everything on my map that I want. Now, why is that important? Because you're going to be describing where St Andrews is compared to other things in Scotland. So once you've decided you're happy with your map, you now need to get a part of that map. So what you're going to want to do is somehow find a snip tool or something that you've got on your device that allows you to extract a bit of map. Now, I use a tool called Snip, which is available on my computer. There it is, it's a snipping tool. You might just want to use a screen grab and then change the shape of it. Now the snipping tool, or whatever tool you're using, you're going to want to take part of the map. You don't need the whole thing. I want to show Perth, Dundee, St Andrews, Fife, and I even want to go down and show Edinburgh and the west of Scotland so I can see where St Andrews is compared to them. So I'm just going to select this area here. And I can see I'm showing the central area of Scotland. I don't need to show the whole of Scotland. And that's my snip. I'm going to copy that using this button here, and that's going to copy that to the clipboard. And then in your Google Classroom, you'll find another document where you can paste that. So I'm going to bring that up. And I'm going to paste that document I just snipped because I don't want to show the whole map. I just want a bit of the map. And I also want to print it off and stick it in to my jotter. Okay, so here we have the document for sticking your map into. Just going to delete that because I don't need that. And I'm going to paste my document here. So I'm going to use the CTRL V function, or it's the little butterfly key and V if you're using a MacBook. I'll try that again. Let's go back to the snip button, copy. There we are. It has now pasted my map. So I actually pasted 2 copies. It was a bit slow there. So I'll delete that one map. I now have a map. I can make it a bit smaller because that would cover a huge amount of my page, and I don't necessarily need a map I'm going to cut out and stick that covers the whole of the page. So I'm just going to shrink it down a little bit. Right, that's me found a map that's going to allow me to describe where St Andrews is in relation to the rest of Scotland. I do now need another map, which is part of the third task, which is using map evidence for why St Andrews is popular, and it's got to show grid references. So let's find a map that's going to do that. So let's go back to the digimap. I now want to zoom right in on St Andrews. So I'm just going to use my bar, push it up, and keep zooming in. I'm just going to have to move my map around. It'll take a little bit of time to get used to it, but there's St Andrews. Okay, I could zoom in a bit more. Okay, and I now have an Ordnance Survey map of St Andrews. Okay, you can choose what you want. When you zoom in at different levels, you get slightly different maps that give you slightly different bits of information, and it's really up to you to decide. So I'm going to want to copy this map, just like I did with the previous one. I'm just going to move this up here. I'm going to go back to my snip tool, go for a new snip, and I'm just going to copy my Ordnance Survey map. Now, at this stage, I could copy it like this, but I don't have the grid numbers on either side. So I'm actually going to show you how to get the grid numbers on the side. Okay, when you've found the map you like, but you want to include the northings and eastings, which are the grid numbers, because that's part of the task, what you want to do is go up here and hit the generate a file for printing. And it's going to bring this up, and we can name it if we want. We could call it St Andrews. We can enter our name, don't need to. We're going to want to go landscape, but we're going to want to tick this box. Very important you tick this box, national grid lines, and then generate a print file. And what it's going to do is it's going to take that bit of the map that we're interested in, and it's going to generate a print file, which I can see down here. And if I open this up, this file I've just created on my screen, I've now got my map, but I've most importantly got my grid numbers. And that's what I want to snip. Okay, so if we go to the bottom of that, we can shrink the size a little bit if we want, just so we can fit it all on one page. There we are. I can now copy this like that, and I am now copying that. And I'm going to copy that to my clipboard by pressing that button. I'm going to close this down, go back to the document I'm using that I want to use for printing off, where my map of St Andrews was, and paste it down. Now, what's quite important is you're going to want both of those maps if you are going for 2 maps, and I would strongly recommend you go for 2. You need this map at least, this first one, but you will probably need the second one as well. It doesn't seem to be pasting. I'm just going to wait a few seconds to see if it comes up. So in order to then write about these 2, you want to get both of these maps onto one page. Okay, so let me just go back and see why that map's not coming up. Let's jump back. Hopefully it'll have appeared again. Oh, here it comes. So here's my second map, and what you can see is that both of these maps are on different pages. Now that's going to be a problem because when I print it off, it's going to be on 2 pages. But if I shrink both my maps down so I can fit them onto one page, we are. When I print them off, I'll be able to cut them out, stick them onto a page. Okay, I'm now ready for printing off and using these maps for the second part of the task. So to print them off, remember to use the following steps: file, email, email this file, okay, and then start typing L41, L41 printer, go send. Okay, and that's going to print it off on the school printer. If there's a problem, you want to speak to your teacher about that, and they can maybe sort that out for you. Okay, we're now at the step where we want to complete the rest of the tasks. So cut out and stick down your first map that showed the location of St Andrews, this one here. And then write a paragraph. The second task says write a paragraph that describes the location of St Andrews. So where is St Andrews in relation to the rest of Scotland? So what would we do to describe St Andrews? So St Andrews is on which coast of Scotland? That would be a key thing that you'd want to describe. In which county is St Andrews located? Is it near any particular body of water? So what's this body of water over here? Is it near any particular rivers? What are the nearby cities? What city lies to the north of it or to the northwest? What city lies to the south of it? Is there a city to the west of it? Name those cities if you can. Are there any large roads that connect St Andrews to the rest of Scotland? So those are the kind of things that you might want to use to describe its location. Okay, so that's us completed the first two tasks. For the third task, if you have chosen to have the map, you don't need to have the map, but you must now write about the evidence for why St Andrews is located where it is. If I bring that map up that I created, let's just pull up that map. Here we are. I make it bigger. And I want to start saying, what brings people to St Andrews? Well, there's lots of evidence on this map for why people are coming here. So we have something over here. If I actually go to digimap just to show you some of these things, and you can then look at your own map. We have a major world attraction here. We have this here. We have this. We have this thing. What is that? What could that be? Okay, we zoom in a little bit. We have another tourist feature. We have more, another tourist feature, and another tourist feature. We have this thing here. What do you think that might be? What could this green diamond thing be? What could people be doing there? So what you want to do to get a good mark is tell me about these features, but give a grid reference. So for example, just a quick reminder on how to do grid references. If you were picking the castle, for example, tourists might come to St Andrews because of the castle. Well, there is the castle. Well, the first thing is you go down to the bottom. You give the two grid numbers closest to the left of your place. So the castle is, if I traced an imaginary line, it would bring me down to this point. So I go to the left, give the lower of the grid numbers 51. And how many tenths along between 51 and 52 am I? Well, that would be halfway, so that's 5 tenths. So the castle is about 3 tenths of the journey between the 51 number grid line, that's that blue line, and this one. So I'd say 51, 3. And my castle is up here. So if I trace an imaginary line to the left, I would arrive here. So I go to the low of my grid numbers, 16. So I've written down 51, 3. I'd now write 16. How far between the 16 blue grid line and the 17 am I? Well, I'm almost at 17, but not quite there. So I'm about 9 tenths. That's an estimate, by the way. So I'd write 16 and then the number 9. So my coordinate would be 51, 3. And I would have written down 16, 9. That's a 6-figure grid reference that tells me where on the map that castle is. So what you want to do is pick out some evidence from the map that tells me why people are visiting St Andrews. And if you're able to give me grid references to back that up, then you're going to get the highest possible mark. If you're not confident with grid references, as long as you can use the map to tell me the different reasons why people visit St Andrews, then you have completed this task. Okay, that's a full tutorial on all the 3 tasks that you need to complete